Welcome back everyone to this Scratch to Python series. It is the Byte Brewmaster here. We're going to have some more fun. Since we were kind of working with if-else statements last time, I wanted to work with while statements. Although Scratch itself does not have a built-in while statement, we can replicate it and I can show you what that would look like. And then we can move to Python. You can see it there as well. So first off, just like always, we're going to go to events when clicked because we want to have this program run every time we click our little flag. That's just easier for us. So we're going to have that set right there. So when clicked. From there, we actually want to go to control, something we haven't really messed too much with. And we want to find repeat until, which is down here. Grab that and put that together. Go right there for you. So we have repeat until, and we want to have basically a condition that will be met. And we're going to move the sprite. Basically, this cat is going to move from the left screen to the right screen until it hits the edge right here. And amazingly enough, lucky for us, if we go to sensing, we can find, hey, touching the edge, that's what we want. Now you might see it initially because it might be on pointer, to mouse pointer, because we can have it move to our actual pointer. But at the moment, let's just keep it to the edge, keep it simple. And so we'll put touching edge, question mark, that'll be our condition. And once that is met, so we're going to basically keep looping until this cat hits the edge. And when he hits the edge, well, we want to do something. We want something to happen, right? So we will come down to, let's go to looks. Not looks. Sorry, let's go to motion. That's what we're looking for. And we'll go move 10 steps. Now, if we hit the green flag right now, he'll do that, and he'll hit the edge, and that will end. Now, if I was to show you this on Python, now we're going to make it a little more advanced, but if I was going to show you this in Python, it would simply be, we could have a variable called distance, set that to 0. And we're just kind of keep it in line with the steps that we were already doing. So we can say, okay, while, we'll say distance is less than 20, what we're going to do is put our colon there. We're going to say distance plus equals 1, because that will accumulate this variable for us. Basically, it'll start off at 0, and then it'll be 1, 2, 3. And as long as it is less than 20, it will continue to run. Just like over here, when we run this, as long as the cat has not touched the edge, it will move 10 steps, and it will continue to do that until it hits the end. Boom, there it is. So when we do it in Python and we take a look over here, we're like, okay, it starts at 0, and as long as distance is less than 20, it will keep running itself. And so basically this line will run. It'll say, is distance less than 20? Initially, it definitely will be. It'll be at 0, so no problem. So distance plus equals 1. So now distance equals 1. That would be distance in the first iteration. Now here's the key thing. When we print out, and we'll say steps taken, right? Sorry, we'll do a fancy formatting string here. We'll say, okay, we'll put our F, we'll do our quotations, and we'll say steps taken, because we want to check all the steps that they're going to take. Then we do curly brackets and add distance in, because we want to count each step it will take. So initially, this would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will go all the way up until it hits 20, right? Because we are checking each time. So if we save this real quick, and we do Python 3, and we do main.py, or of course you can click the play button in the top right, whatever works for you. We will run that, and just like magic, we told the program to say, hey, initially it starts at 0, so we don't print it at 0, we print it at 1, because right here it's 0, and then right here it checks, is it 0? Okay, yep, still 0. And then we add 1 to it, so now it's 0 plus 1, so that would be 1. And then we can finally print out, okay, well the steps taken is 1. And so that's what we do. And so even when we get to, you'll think, well, okay, why is it printing out 20 then? Well, that's because this will be 19, and it'll get right here, well, is distance less than 20? It certainly is. So, okay, make 19 into 20, and then we print out 20. Then it'll say, okay, well, is it less than 20? No, it's not. In that 19th to 20th iteration, it will now be 20, so the loop will stop running. So like, okay, great. So we'll come back over here real quick, and we'll hit play one more time. He hits the edge, and that's that, right? He's all done, which is pretty cool. Now we can actually add a little something cool to it. We can say, well, what if we want something to happen at the end? He hits the end, but we want him to say, ow, a wall, or hit the wall, or have some sort of, basically something to be met inside of our while loop. Like, okay, well, did something happen? And if it did, and did the while loop end, what happened? So we can say, all right, well, we're going to go to a if statement. So we'll say if, and we'll put it right here. Actually, you know what? Let's do it this. Yeah, we'll do that. So we'll actually come back over to touching edge, grab another one because we want to make sure that once it touches the edge there. Okay, so up here we just have repeat until. Now we have if touching edge, then. And we just take that little variable from sensing and we go pop it right in. Easy peasy, right? Now within this, we can actually have it do something cool. We can say, okay, we want him to say something when he hits the edge. So we'll say, ow, because he's gonna hit the wall, right? So if we hit play, other than my computer lagging a little bit, he says, ow. And that's the case because this will continue to run. This orange bit right here will continue to run until this cat hits the edge. Once the scratch cat hits the end, we're gonna check, okay, well, if it's touching the end, then we're gonna say, ow. And sure enough, that's what he will do. So it'll run through, and that's why it's not each time saying ow, right? We put it underneath the 10 steps, and we're gonna check it like, okay, he's gonna keep taking those steps, and then when he finally hits the end, he's not gonna move anymore. We're gonna say, well, if he's touching the edge of the screen, then say ow. And for instance, if we hit play right now, you'll see he was already touching it, so nothing ever ran. But we do it over here, and he's not touching it from the beginning. He hits the end, and then he says, ow. So although Scratch doesn't have a built-in while loop, repeat until is kind of the same thing. It may not be called a while loop, but you're repeating until a certain condition is met. And once that condition is met, well, then you can have something else happen. You can have a while loop with multiple if statements in it. You can even slap another while loop inside of it if you'd like. You could do something like, you were going to have different game modes or questions or health bars or maybe a series of attacks coming out of a rocket. Whatever you wanted to do, you could continue on. You could think of this sort of repeat as your main game loop, right? And as long as this cat doesn't touch the end, everything's going to run. We hit it there and it'll just run. And once it hits the end, okay, it stops and then it'll check. Well, if it's touching the edge, well, then say ow. And you'll notice when it's over here, it's not touching the edge. So he doesn't say ow. He doesn't say ow until the condition is met that he is, in fact, touching the edge, and then he says ow, which makes sense because if you were a cat being tossed at a wall, I would assume you wouldn't have any sort of discomfort until you actually hit the wall, right? That's the reality. Don't throw cats at walls. That was not a little disclaimer there. I'm just saying the cat would have no problem until he actually hit the wall, which is what we have. We hit play, and the cat rolls over, and then he hits the wall and says ow. Now, if we go to Python, and we're like, okay, well, that's cool. So we had the same thing. We had the while loop. Well, what else could we do? What if we want to put an if statement inside of Python, just like we did over there? Well, we can. And we'll do that by going to the end of here. And we'll say, okay, so while the distance is less than 20, print out the steps, and we're going to keep doing that. And we're going to have a condition that's going to check to see if something is true. We already have a condition seeing if it's 20. So now we're going to have a second condition under here checking for something else. And that'll be if distance is equal to, and remember in Python, 2 equal signs is the equivalency. Essentially, does 1 equals a 1, or does 1 equals 1? Yes, it does. You know, you want to make sure it's the same, basically, primitive type, and you want to make sure it's the same thing. So we're saying, hey, is it the same thing? Is it 1 and 1 and not just like 1 and 1? You know, that's not what we're looking for. That would be like a loose comparison. We are looking for, is it basically, essentially, is it equal to 20, right? So if distance is equal to 20, then we can say print, and we'll do F and go, okay, hit the wall. Hit wall. Ow. Don't throw cats at walls, right? Okay, so now once we go back here, so we are basically going to run this. And each step, it's going to increment by 1. And then it's going to say, okay, well, on step 5, right? Let's say we're on step 5 right here. Let me do that. Let's say we're on step 5. And we're like, okay, well, listen. We're on step 5. We're going to check if distance equals 20. And at this point, it's 5. So therefore, this never runs. But in that last iteration, where we increment it from 19 to 20, and it prints out steps 20 taken, that final iteration of it, of that while loop, will actually go, okay, hey, this is true now. If distance is basically equivalent to 20, then we can print out hit wall out. So it would be the same thing. Now remember, you can either hit play up here, or you could do Python 3 and do like main.py, or you could just do Python if you're using Windows. But as you can see, it did the same thing. We have now successfully made this cat hit that wall in multiple languages in Scratch and Python. So in Scratch, we just say when clicked, repeat until touching edge. Remember, this is from the sensing area. and we use the control blocks here in control, and we want to have something happen. We want to do something, so we want to move, go to motion, and we'll have the cat move 10 steps, and it'll keep doing that, and each time it will check to see if the cat is touching the end. And if at the end the cat will is eventually be touching the end, then say ow. So this loop stops once he touches the end, and when it stops, it's like, oh, okay, he is finally touching, and so this one rings true. This if all of a sudden rings true, and this cat will say ow. Boom, he hits the wall. Ow, that hurt, right? So now we go back over here, and this is the same thing. This is essentially the Scratch version in Python, but we're using the actual while loop, or basically while keyword instead of repeat until. Same thing, really. Basically repeat until a condition is met, which is touching the edge, or repeat until distance is no longer less than 20. So the second that this gets to 21, this whole loop will stop. It'll be like, oh, it's done. But it will hit 20, and when it does hit 20, then this will finally be true, because at 19 it won't be true, so it'll just read it and go back. Basically, it'll keep doing this over, and it'll go, okay, while it's less, while it's less, while it's less, while it's less, and on that last iteration, when it hits 20, it'll be like, okay, you got it. If distance is basically equivalent to 20, and it will be, then print ow. And sure enough, that is what we got. So yeah, I wanted to stick to the same sort of themes since we were working with control statements and if else's and elif. So I wanted to stick with the same variation of style of ideology. Basically, we are using control statements. We are controlling basically data based on certain conditions that we want or that we expect or that we wanted to meet or match. Here we wanted it to hit 20. Here we wanted it to hit the wall, right? Same idea, it's just two different purposes. Here he hits the wall, boom, hit the wall. Inside of Python, it's the same concept, except for we're just going up to 20 where he will eventually hit the wall. So definitely play around with this, make some of your own while loops, and have some fun, honestly. It's a lot of fun taking from Scratch and putting it into Python and then kind of figuring out how they work together, what's similar, what's different, and this will really start to help you build your programming fundamentals and get a basic idea of control flow inside of programs. So have some fun with it, and we will see you guys in the next one.